In this video, we're going to take a quick look at a different approach to designing and making stuff using 3D modeling and 2D drawing or 2D drafting. I'll be using Shapr3D in this video, but the concepts apply to any modeling app. This object is a classic. It's been a standard drawing exercise in classrooms for decades, and it's a good example of how we can think of new approaches to what you might call older methods. Back in the day, we would have started to think about this object in terms of 2D views called orthogonal or orthographic views. In the isometric view in the top right, we see that a view has been designated the front view. Down in the title block, this icon tells us that the drawing is in third angle projection. And with that in mind, we'd start to draw the views, typically starting with the front view and then projecting left side and right side views. Now we'd be using a 2D approach to draw all these lines individually, one view at a time. But how would you know these dimensions? Well, we'd either know them because we designed the object or because the isometric view had the dimensions on it. Now in this case, the isometric view doesn't have any dimensions, but the 2D orthogonal views do. Now, how did that happen? Well, it's because we've taken a different approach to documenting this object. We started with a 3D model in mind first, by modeling it to known dimensions and then let the model create the 2D drawings. Now that sounds complicated, but it's easier to see once you get your head around an approach which you might call modeling first. Coming back to the model, let's look at how we might create this object. We won't do any 2D drawings in this video or generate any 2D drawings. We'll just look at how to simply interpret something that looks complicated. You might think that you'd start this by drawing individual lines and then somehow connect them to make solid objects, or what modeling calls bodies. But you'll soon find yourself on struggle street with that method. Instead, let's consider the object as a whole. It's actually just a rectangular prism with some bits pushed in. You can see that I can grab these faces and simply drag them up or across to make a solid object. So let's think about that in reverse to make the object from scratch. I'll be referring to this drawing to make it. For the purpose of this video, you don't need to know the dimensions or even know how to use the tools. Just think of the approach being used here. Let's start with the basic rectangle shape, which is 88 by 63 millimeters. Then let's extrude that up 75 millimeters. Now let's focus on this top left corner. Offset this edge 38 millimeters. Offset this edge 20 millimeters. That creates a region which can now be extruded. Let's extrude that back into the object 13 millimeters. Now let's look at the bottom right corner. Offset this edge by 25 millimeters, and then offset this edge up 38 millimeters. That creates a region which can now be extruded. Let's extrude that into the object 48 millimeters. Now this top section looks a bit more involved, but it's simpler than it looks. Offset this edge 15 millimeters. Then offset that line 20 millimeters. Offset this edge 15 millimeters, and then offset that line again 20 millimeters. That creates regions which can now be extruded. Select the regions and then extrude them down into the object 15 millimeters. And there it is. We created a solid model by first considering the larger form and then modified it to get the desired result. Now, of course, this is a super simple example, but it demonstrates the concept. From this object, we can now generate 2D orthogonal drawings like this one. Now, it's important to remember that even though 3D modeling seems like a really cool thing to do, 2D orthogonal drawings are still super important, and it's essential to know how to produce them correctly and in line with standard conventions. And we'll look at how to do that in a separate video. And if you found this video helpful, then hit the like button, leave a comment or question, and consider subscribing. And we'll see you next time.